All right, welcome everybody. Mark Hart here from Memphis Investment Properties, and I am pleased to introduce our next guest speaker. We have Ryan Lee from Cash Flow Tactics. Ryan, how you
Heck yeah. What's up, Mark? Man, I'm honored to be on with you and your community. I love what you guys are doing. And it's a pleasure. It's an opportunity and an honor for me to be here with you today.
Yeah, likewise. So Ryan and I have known each other for multiple years. We've probably had in the hundreds of clients and transactions that we've been able to, forge together, which we're very excited about. But from a high level perspective, Ryan's goal is to make sure that you hit financial freedom in 10 years or less. And most people they kind of get a little scared about that. How can they do that in 10 years? But what's great
Yeah.
about Ryan is that they've done it before. They have an incredible process that's just replicatable and duplicatable, and you guys can just plug into that system. And between Ryan's process and our process, they fit together very, very well to allow you to accelerate that growth, that goal of financial independence. How'd
Heck
I
yeah.
do?
Love that. Because that's exactly what it's all about, Mark. I believe, and this isn't the case for a lot of people, but I know, this is how it started off for me. I was in pain financially. Like I followed all of the rules. I did everything right. I checked off all the boxes. And, I found myself in a position in my life where I had a corporate job. I had a corner office. I was making six figures, but in the pursuit of retirement, in the pursuit of one day, I was literally losing everything I cared about along the way. I was losing my family. I was losing my relationship and my connection with my wife, my connection with God. I mean, like everything that I cared about, I was kind of sacrificing for one day. And I kept telling myself, if I work harder, if I make more money, and if the stock market does its thing, maybe I can retire earlier and figure life back out. And, I had some really key moments. And I think life has a way of helping you learn lessons, and some really key moments inside of my life that forced me to open my eyes and see the world for what it was. And I realized the system I was using, the financial system, was broken. It literally was broken. And even if I did all the right things, there was no guarantee of success.
Right.
And that set me on a journey to figure out a different way. And honestly, when people see what we do in Cash Flow Tactics today, we didn't build Cash Flow Tactics for anyone watching this video. Like, we built Cash Flow Tactics for me because I didn't know what to do with money.
Right.
And along the way, most people in the beginning said I was crazy because I stopped putting money in the 401k. I started taking money out, and I started doing some of the things we're going to talk about today. And in the beginning, people are like, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" And by myself, I felt a little bit crazy, I'll be honest with you. But over time, as we figured out, and when I say we, my business partner, who's now my business partner today, but back in the day, he was in the same situation I was in. As we started figuring out some things that worked, we started to identify and realize there were principles of success. And the more we aligned with those principles, the more we got results. And that ultimately turned into what is Cash Flow Tactics today. But that's not where it started. But I believe at my core that money is a tool. It's not the objective, it's a tool. And when you have sufficient cash flow, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about today, you stop making decisions with your life and with your time, more importantly, that are focused on money, right? I mean, yes, you still think about money, but you start making decisions that are more focused on what your purpose is, what lights you up, what you want in life, and less around, well, I need to make money. I need to go to work. I need to do all the things for money. So money for us is a tool to help open up and help people get their time back and start to figure out what they want to do with their life.
Exactly. And it's great that it sounds like you had a paradigm shift and said that this original path wasn't working out for you. You spent a lot of time educating yourself and figuring out a different way. And since it worked out so well for you, now you're just helping other people duplicate that. And that's
Yeah,
exactly
100%.
what we've done. I mean, it's great. I'm a millennial, so I'm very blessed, that I've been doing this since day one. I knew that there was a different way, right? So it's just hanging out there. And then what's also great, my partner, Jim Reedy, he's done the exact same thing, been doing the same thing in the same place on the real estate side. So why don't you take it from here and just let everyone know, what does your company even do?
Yeah, no, I love that, man. Because Mark, look, our mission is simple. Our mission is to help, no matter who you are, no matter where you're starting from, to help you identify with principles to become financially free in 10 years or less. And there are principles that we can trace back long before you and I ever started doing what we do today. We can trace back from almost the beginning of time and find out how the wealthy became wealthy and what are the mindsets and the skill sets that they deployed to achieve that. So For us, we just built an entire strategy around that. And the number one thing is you're your greatest asset. Focus on making money, on creating value, on putting yourself in a position where you can express your God-given gifts, talents, and abilities in the service of other people and make money from that. But then the second step, it's not just what you make, it's what you keep that really makes the difference, right? And so our strategy helps you keep the money that you're making. And then this is where I love, kind of the partnership that we have together is with the money that you've kept, then we want to turn it into cash flow. We want to build our game plan based on a scoreboard of not net worth and retirement someday, but on cash flow. Like it's really easy to say, look, if I have $100,000 net worth or a $200,000 net worth or $1 million or whatever it is, that might look good on paper. But when I really step back and I analyze it based on what we all want, I want to own and control my time. It's really hard to determine how free you are, how much time that net worth will give you. But when you start to measure your effectiveness based on cash flow, the game gets super simple. So our company focuses first and foremost on empowering people through education, on the principles of becoming financially free in 10 years or less, making, keeping, and cash flowing your money, and then building a game plan that's relevant and specific to them. Like Bark, I remember sitting down and doing this with you. It was fun to say, okay, look, here's the principles. And now let's take your goals and your resources and let's blend them. Let's marry them together. And let's simply define what success is, give you a very, very clear target of what freedom looks like, and then pull it all the way back into a 90-day target. And this is, I think, what makes us completely different from anyone else I've ever seen. Is the goal is to take your money and what's the one thing you need to do in the next 90 days to make momentum towards that goal of financial freedom. So one 90-day target, eliminate distractions, focus, do that thing. At the end of 90 days, you look back on where you've come from, the lessons that you've learned, you orient yourself with the target that you're going towards, and you set the next 90-day target. And you just do that over and over and over again. And that's how we build momentum into these game plans. So we see hundreds of people coming in all different walks of life. So much of our education has to help them unlearn what they think they know about money. So we can install a new program around what success actually looks like and what the principles of financial freedom are. But once they have it and they have a game plan, then they take action. And I know that's where, and it's been so fun, my sister included. I think my sister likes you better than she likes me now, because like she's buying as much real estate from you guys as she can, because she has a game plan. Right. She knows how to define success. She knows what to do with her money to get consistent results. And she has these targets and she's just knocking down one target after another. So it's so fun. It's so fun to see people get that glimpse of possibility, that dream of what their life could look like if money wasn't a constraint, and then start to put those dreams into reality by taking action on a game plan. And that's really what we focus on doing.
Yeah. So then let's get into the specifics here. I guess, what makes your company different from just traditional financial advice that we've all been accustomed to for so long?
Yeah. So I've got a teenage daughter and she's 13. And so the first word I'm going to use that will help separate our company from traditional financial advice is ew. She's 13-year-old and that's everything is ew to her, right? So I'm going to use ew first. Like, look, I don't believe, like, the main mantra inside of our group, and this turns a lot of people off and I get it, but I believe that 97% of traditional financial advice, go to school, get a job, put your money in a 401k, is dangerous, misleading, or outright wrong. Okay. And number one, the reason we can say that is it will never get you financially free in 10 years or less. Right. Now, will you end up with more money in your 401k or your IRA than you had when you started? Probably, right? But you're waiting until the end, right? You're waiting until 65, 70, and the entire time you have your fingers crossed, you're biting on your fingernails, you're hoping that it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, you have no time to fix it. And if it does, and we've seen people have enough money in their 401ks or whatever, but they're too scared to spend the money, right? What if they outlive their money? What's going to happen if taxes go up? And so all of the things that you're saving for, like the traditional system works against you in that way, but yet we've been brainwashed that that's the way to do it. So what makes us different is we help you understand that what everyone else is doing is not going to work. And the evidence is overwhelming. We're not just, preaching. You can go on Google and see there's a major crisis out there with people's personal finance. So we help you understand what's not working. And then once we can do that, like, we have to help you understand it's not about diversification, right? Diversification is simply protection against the ignorance that you have around money. If you're armed with principles, then it literally is about focus. It's about focus. So that's where our education comes in and says, we're not going to try to do broken things better. We're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to build a game plan and we're going to focus your attention and your dollars to a very clear and definitive outcome. So that's how we build this. And then tactically, that we use 3 different products, tools, if you will. The goal for what we do is not to sell a product, but we use 3 different tools to accomplish the outcome of financial freedom. The first one is, look, you're your best asset. So go make as much money as you can, right? Go create value, go make money. And then on the flip side of that, making money and keeping money require 2 completely different mindsets, right? And so on the other side of keeping money, like the IRS, they wrote this big comprehensive tax code, right? And the tax code first and foremost says, hey, everything you think you have is not yours, it's ours, right? Everything you make is taxable. And then the rest of the tax code is literally a playbook to say, hey, well, here's some of the ways that if you do these things, you don't have to pay taxes, right? And so I believe the IRS uses the tax code as a way to incentivize behavior. They want people to do certain things because those things are good for the economy. They're good for other people. And so we align first and foremost with the tax code to say, hey, let's not defer it like you do in a 401k. Let's eliminate it. So we build a tax strategy, and part of that tax strategy includes a vault and then turnkey real estate. So those are the 2 main tools that we use, a vault and turnkey real estate. So I'm sure we'll talk about each one of those. Yes?
Yeah, definitely. And see, as a real estate investor, you don't need Ryan's services to build up a portfolio, but if you use his services and the vault, well, you can get to those goals significantly quicker. And that's one of the best parts about having this partnership together. So since you mentioned the vault, what is the vault?
Okay. Now we have to market it, right? Because if I say what it is up front, people's perception turns like they'll go blind, they'll go deaf immediately, right? So the vault is a high cash value investment grade life insurance policy. All right. So if that offends you, turn off the YouTube video right now, right? And go do 401ks a little bit better than the average person. Okay. But a vault, the crazy part about it, and I don't know if we should date stamp this video, but we'll date stamp it as 2021. There was a new president that was just elected and sworn into office a couple months ago. And for my business partner, he loves the tax code. You've met Brad. Brad loves numbers and tax codes and all that kind of stuff. I like when he reads it and tells me about it, but like every time the president is sworn into office, they have to disclose their finances, right? And so Biden disclosed his finances. Guess what? He had 7 of these high cash value investment grade life insurance policies, 7. Now, does Biden and the rest of the Senate and the rest, because there's over 50% of the elected officials, this is where they keep their money. The wealthy, this is where they keep their money.
Wow.
Companies like
over 50% of elected officials keep their monies in these vaults.
And it's documented on paper, visible. Like banks, we think banks keep money in banks. No, banks, they have requirements of how much reserve they have to keep on hand. Guess where they keep their reserves? They don't stick it in the vault in the bank. They put it in these type of high cash value policies. There is a law literally not against, but restricting how much of this that banks can actually buy, because they want to buy as much of it as they possibly can.
Right.
Corporations, Warren Buffett has, and this is with a B, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, between those 2 have over $1 billion of their money in these type of policies. So what it is, it's a policy that we're using the tax code. Like, have you ever asked yourself, and no one does, but have you ever asked yourself why a 401k is called a 401k? Everyone just thinks it's called a 401k, but 401k is actually a section in the tax code reference 401k. And that section in the tax code references the tax criteria of that specific account. We use a different section in the tax code. It's called section 770. And it designates what qualifies life insurance as life insurance. And the reason we're using life insurance, okay? If I come to you and I say, hey, Mark, how would you like to have the ability to take your money and put it in a place where it's safe, it's private, it's protected, it's backed by a contract from companies that have done these contracts for hundreds of years and they've never failed. It's going to give you a guaranteed return. It's going to give you a dividend. It's going to eliminate taxes, not defer taxes, but eliminate taxes forever. And all the while that it's doing all these great things, you have access to leverage your money in and out. Most people will be like, yeah, I want that. Yeah. But then if I say, okay, look, how do we do that? There's only 3 tools that eliminate taxes forever, right? A Roth IRA. Okay. So you can put your money into a Roth IRA, municipal bonds, if we believe in the debt paying ability of the government, or life insurance. So all we're doing is we're using life insurance because it fits within the section of the tax code that we want. And we're designing a policy in a way that it can be not just a death benefit, but it can be a place for you to store, preserve, and actually grow your capital and get the minimum amount of life insurance required to simply keep it qualified as life insurance for the tax benefits.
I think that was the key word right there. You said minimum death benefit, so you can maximize the investment grade cash value of this product. And that's just what I see a lot of misconception about is you'll just hear as soon as you say those words, cash value life insurance, people just freak out. Why do you think that is such a negative connotation? And obviously what you guys are doing to rebrand and show the actual value of it is incredible.
Yeah. And I think there's just a lot of misperception about it. But really, look, if you trace this back through history, if we go back into the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s, like high cash value policies were a part of everyone's portfolio. This is how they built their personal finance. But back in those days, the way people did their finances, they would go to work, and most companies, they didn't offer 401ks, they offered a pension. Right. So the deal was, hey, you go to work and work for X amount of time, and most of your retirement will be covered by the company. And what's not covered by the company, Social Security will take care of the rest. And then what people would do is outside of that, their personal savings, they would put it in places that didn't have a lot of volatility to it, right? So these type of policies have been used for a long time. But back in the late 70s and early 80s, a lot of companies started saying, it's too much risk for us to take on a pension. So let's just shift it around. Let's not give people a pension. Let's give them a 401k. We'll contribute money on their behalf to some future account, right? To the 401k. And that's how this whole world was born. And ultimately what happened is massive amounts of money started flooding into Wall Street, massive amounts. I mean, because now they had employees putting money in every 2 weeks. It was skimmed right off the top of their paycheck. They never saw it. And so Wall Street had millions of dollars coming in, and this machine started to grow. And I don't want to say propaganda, but the propaganda and the marketing and all of this stuff began. And in order to really instill this new belief, people had to believe that the market was the place to grow your money. The market was the place to keep your money safe. The market was the place to work towards retirement, and everything else outside of that was stupid or silly, right? And so now we've got generations of people that just grew up that's the way you do it. Like for me, Mark, when I decided to, go to school and get a job, I didn't even question like whether or not I should put money in a 401k. It was just the default script inside of my head. Right. Of course, that's what you do.
Right, exactly. And, at the end of the day, like you said before, they had pensions, right? That was the whole reason why people were able to go through this standard program of go to school, get a job, put in the 401k, because you'll have that pension. Since they aren't there, you need another strategy. And in terms of using this strategy with real estate, how do the two fit together? Why have both?
This is my favorite part, Mark. This is my favorite part. So here's how it started for me. Like when I started doing all of this stuff, it was really interesting because I was kind of battling back and forth. Like I've always been a good saver, right? That hasn't been an issue for me. I grew up in a very frugal family, and saving was just part of the way we lived. And so for me, I thought if I saved more money and the market did its thing, everything would work. And in 2008, I learned with a lot of other people that I didn't have any control over that world. And so I remember I went out and I started trying other alternative investing strategies, including real estate. Okay. And here's where the value of what you do comes in so heavily. And, I started doing all of this stuff, and I bought 3 rental properties. Now, the first time I did it, I was kind of excited. I puffed out my chest, and walked around the office like I'm a big real estate investor. I had no idea what I was doing. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I thought, okay, this qualifies me to be a real estate investor. And after 3 properties, okay, I started to learn some very, very difficult lessons in real estate. Okay. And ultimately what was happening was every property that I was able to acquire, it required a lot of effort on my part. I had to find the property. I had to make offers on the property, and there were multiple people making offers. If I got the property, I usually had to do some type of rehab and renovation to the property. Then once I did all of that, I still didn't have any money in my bank account. I had to go find a person to live in the property. And then once I did that, I still didn't have any money in my bank account. I had to collect rent from them. And then what I didn't think about is these people, they sometimes call you and they're like, hey, something's broken. And then I had to figure out how to go and fix it. Right. And man, I tell you what, after 3 properties, I'll never forget, man. And there were lots of things leading up to this. But back in my corporate days, I used to sell medical equipment, right? Medical devices. And I was up in Rapid City, South Dakota, and I was selling a bunch of medical devices while I was trying to sell medical devices to the hospital up there. I was in a boardroom with all the hospital administrators, the doctors, and all this stuff. and my phone started going crazy. Boom, boom, phone call after phone call after phone call. And I looked down at it. I'm like, what is going on? And every phone call was from a different number, but from the same area code. And so finally I excused myself. I stepped out and I picked up my phone and I started listening to the voicemail. Okay. I had a voicemail from one of my tenants, and I'll preface this. I am the worst property manager in the entire world ever. Like, I'm just a pushover. And every time someone would call me, I'd be like, oh, you can't pay your rent this month? Well, let me pay it for you.
Right.
Oh, you broke something on purpose inside of the house? Don't worry about it. I'm going to fix it for you. Right. So this had gone on for quite a long time. And I had all these calls. The first one was from a tenant just screaming belligerently that it wasn't his fault, that the neighbor deserved it. The cat should never have been on his yard. Then I had a call from the neighbor, or the tenant's wife, crying, saying she was so sorry. Please don't evict them, all this stuff. Then I had all these calls from the neighbors of the house that I owned saying they were going to sue me. And then I had a call from a police officer saying, son, you better call me, you're in trouble. And so what had ultimately happened, this tenant who I should have evicted months before, he was just a series of bad decisions leading up to this. He had actually shot in the middle of a crowded neighborhood with a gun, not a BB gun, not the slingshot, but an actual gun with a bullet, had shot a neighbor's cat. And like, so everyone was going crazy. And man, this was my property. And I'll never forget, I was up in that moment and I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to fail at real estate. I can't do this anymore. I only have 3 properties. And now I have a part-time job in real estate. And so everything was melting down for me. But I read a book, and I oftentimes find my answers in books, but I read Think and Grow Rich. Now, it wasn't the first time I had read it, but something stood out to me inside of this book. And it said, look, it was talking about the story of Henry Ford. And Henry Ford was accused inside of his time of being the most ignorant businessman ever, because he ran Ford Motor Company, but had literally no idea how to assemble a car. Okay. And so this went so far that the newspaper that was accusing Henry Ford of being this ignorant, person took, Henry Ford took him to court for, slander and libel. And finally, Henry Ford held up his hand and he said, you know what? Let's stop these ridiculous questions right here. I have a row, and he called it a row of electronic push buttons. I have a row of electronic push buttons on my desk, and I can push the right button to summon the right person to do the thing that you're asking. I don't need to know how to put together an engine. I don't need to know how to assemble a car. I need to know how to put my row of electronic push buttons together. And for me, a light bulb went off. I wanted to be financially free. That was my goal, which meant I needed to own my time. But yet now I have a full-time job in corporate America and a part-time job in real estate that I suck at, by the way. And at this point, I realized, okay, look, if I'm going to be free, I've got to find guys like Mark Hart. I've got to find people that are really good at doing real estate, because I'm obviously not. Then I need to be able to assemble my row of electronic push buttons to say, look, I'm going to go buy properties in Memphis. Mark's my man, right? And push that button if something is required. And so this is ultimately what got me going down the path of turnkey real estate. And along the way, I met a mentor who had just crushed it. The dude had over 200 properties in turnkey real estate. And he's like, oh yeah, my financial plan is so easy. I go put money in real estate. I take the cash flow from the real estate and I put it in high cash value life insurance. And then what I do, I just repeat that process. I do that over and over and over again. And I was like, holy crap, this is like revelation to my ears. So that's how it all started for me. Like, I just found mentors that had done it. And then I found people that were successful in the things that I wanted, and I just followed their steps. And so the life insurance and the real estate, the way these blend together, well, before I go into that, and I kind of went off on a tangent there, but did that kind of give you some context?
I think everyone listening got it. Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the insurance now, okay? Because this is my favorite part. When I sat down with this mentor and he was showing me how he uses insurance, I was literally blown away. I was getting my master's degree in finance, and I thought I was learning everything about money, but yet everything he was telling me, I had never heard about. And so at first I was kind of pissed off, right? I felt like I'd been lied to and deceived, and maybe I hadn't, I don't know. But these policies, the way they work, and for a real estate investor, you'll understand it exactly. Let's say I have a piece of property, and let's say the property has $100,000 in equity. Okay, I've got an asset that on the books has $100,000 in equity. Now I can just let that equity sit there, and it will likely go up over time as the tenant pays down the mortgage and the property goes up in value. So I'll have more and more equity over time. But in the meantime, if I want to, I could go to a bank and say, you know what, bank? Look, I've got this property and I want to leverage that equity. I want to do a cash out refi, and I want to pull the equity out, but still keep the property. Is that cool? And the bank's going to be like, yeah, that's cool. We'll just put the real estate as the collateral for the loan. And then here's your $100,000, right? And then I can go take the $100,000 and say, okay, maybe I'll go buy 3 more properties, or maybe I'll go on a great vacation, right? Whatever I want to do.
Right.
The cash value insurance policies work the exact same way. As you're putting money into this account, it's growing with a guaranteed return. It's giving you a dividend. So every year your value of the policy is going up, right? But as it's going up, that equity, that cash value can be leveraged. And the way the leverage works is the insurance company. If I go to the insurance company and I have the same $100,000 of cash value in the policy, the insurance company opens a no questions asked line of credit, meaning I can go to the insurance company and say, I want to take a loan against my policy. They won't ask any questions. There's no application to fill out. I don't have to tell them what I'm buying, what I'm using the money for. I don't have to tell them. I don't have to pay it back, right? Yeah, I control the whole thing.
Right.
And the way the insurance company does it, they say, okay, we owe Ryan money. If he died tomorrow, right, they're going to pay out the death benefit, and they use the death benefit as the collateral. So I get to take the equity, I get to leverage the equity and go buy real estate. But here's the crazy part, and it takes some brain power to really understand this. The line of credit is coming from the insurance company. They're not really taking the money out of the policy. Right. So even though I'm using the line of credit, my money is still compounding and growing. Right. And if I take that line of credit, and if I go buy some of Mark's properties, I just take the cash flow from Mark's properties, I pay off the line of credit, and then I go do it over and over and over. And the first time it goes a little bit slow because one property paying off a line of credit. But the second time I do it, I have 2 properties paying off the line of credit, then 3 properties, then 4 properties, then 5 properties, then 20, and then 30. It just goes faster and faster and faster. So now I have my money compounding and building assets at the same time.
Boom. Done.
Yeah.
How did you say that?
That's my favorite part, dude. Like when I first saw that, when this guy was showing me this, I'm getting my master's degree in finance. I'm like, I am being lied to. I am being fed a sack of lies because no one's talking about this. And I remember I asked one of my finance professors in corporate finance, he's like, oh, don't worry about that. That's not what we're talking about. I'm like, this is exactly what we're talking about. I want to know how to be free. Well, you're not here to be free. You're here to learn how to, whatever, be a better employee for someone. And so like, that's how the whole thing started for me.
Right. They're trying to teach you how to work for someone else as opposed to how to think for yourself. And
exactly.
Put these 2 and 2 together. So if you guys didn't catch that, because he just dropped some golden bombs on you right there, please rewind the video, watch the last 2 minutes of that, because that was it. That was the power of being able to utilize both, build up both assets together. And what I love is that, let's say I put in some $1,000 a month, and put it into this cash value life insurance policy. Well, the big question I get asked is, how much of that goes towards the death benefit, but how much of it goes to my cash value?
It's a great question. So this is in the beauty. So there's 101 life insurance people out there, right? And I would say out of those 101, probably 100 people don't understand how this strategy works. They're just selling you life insurance for life insurance purposes.
Yeah. So they can make a commission and then they're done.
Right? Yeah. And by itself, there's nothing wrong with having life insurance, right? I mean, being in this game, we've had actually a handful of clients, some well before the time that they should have, pass away. And I'll tell you what, the mindset of the surviving people, especially if there's a family behind, man, for the people that have insurance, they're so sad for the loss of their father or their mother. But that, having a death benefit coming in allows them to maintain their life. So they're not worried about money and they can properly grieve. So having life insurance in and of itself is awesome. The way we build these policies, we do the exact opposite. All we're doing, we want the policy to qualify as life insurance. So we never know how much death benefit you need or how much you're going to have. What we do is we just start from the beginning. Well, how much money do you want to put into one of these accounts? And that's unique to every individual. The very first policy I set up, the most I could put in was $10,000. And I set that limit. I could save about $10,000 a year when I first started this strategy. But we have people that are putting in millions of dollars a year and people that are putting in a couple $1,000s a year. So it's totally up to you. Mm-hmm. But once we have that number, then it becomes really easy. Hey, here's Mark Hart. He wants to put in X amount of dollars per year. So all we do is we go to the tax code and we say, how much life insurance, the absolute minimum that Mark would need for a male his age, how much insurance does he need? And out of that money that he's putting in, what's the least amount of that money that we can put towards life insurance to meet the IRS criteria? And the rest of his money goes to cash value. So in most cases, the way these policies are built, between 70 and sometimes 80% of what you put into the policy in year one is available in cash value. Okay, so the cost of the policy is somewhere between 20 and 30%.
Right. That's
In year two,
exactly.
year one. Yep. So if I put in $10,000, I'll immediately have access to about $7,500. Okay.
Yep.
Now, some people design the policy where they've got like $200,000 they want to drop in up front and then put in a smaller amount every year after that. And in those cases, there's more cash value when you do a big dump in. But every policy is uniquely designed to fit in line with what I just explained. Minimum life insurance in the most cost-effective way to maximize the cash value on the money you're putting in. Mm-hmm. In year two, so let's say you put in another, we'll use $10,000. Okay. Put in another $10,000 in year two. Between 85 and 90% of what you put in year two is usually available to you in cash value. So again, still a cost. Yeah. And in most cases, by year three, as long as you're relatively healthy, by year three, dollar for dollar, what you put in goes directly towards cash value. And it stays that way for the rest of your life.
Dude, that's incredible. So at year three, can I then just put in more money now that it's dollar for dollar?
Well, and that's the challenging part. So when the policy is built, we build it up front to be kind of like a buckets, right? If you're going to put in $10,000, we take that $10,000 and we say, what's the least amount of life insurance for Mark to be able to put in $10,000 and maximize the cash value on that $10,000. So it kind of becomes a bucket. You'll know the max you can put in, the minimum you have to put in. And then this happens all the time. It happened for me. I have now 8 of these policies. My first one was 10,000. And over time, as my capacity to save more money goes up, then if a vault is still relevant for you inside of your game plan, then we just open up additional vaults on top of that. So I have 8 because my ability to save has gone up.
Right. Brilliant. Yeah. You don't just stick to one and then just keep growing that individual one. You'll just set a new policy based off the new amount of capital that you can save on an annualized basis up and above the current premium of the current policy.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. And what a lot of people don't realize and understand with these, like the goal is not, I mean, there's value in life insurance, but the goal of this is to say, look, let's work relatively conservatively with what you can reasonably put in. Because if you come to me and say, hey, I can save $10,000 today, but I think maybe next year, I think I'm going to get a promotion. I think I've got a bonus. I'm going to buy some property. I think next year I can save 40,000. Then what I have to do is I have to take $40,000 and say, okay, Mark wants to put in 40,000. So let's buy enough death benefit to give him a bucket that can hold $40,000. And if you never put in 40,000, we just bought too much death benefit. So it minimized the efficiency on the money you did put in. Your cost of insurance was higher than it needed to be. So what we do is we say, look, let's start where you're at and then go out and do something, right? Go build some real estate, go get some results in your life. Then once you've got those results and on paper and you can do it, if your ability to save goes up, then we'll expand your coverage and your ability to save beyond that.
Right. Makes perfect sense. And you mentioned before about you're saying that this is growing, this compounding. What type of interest rates are we talking about?
It's cool. So the insurance companies and the rules. So this year in 2021, the IRS changed the rules. So it was a 4% guarantee. So now that guarantee is no longer through this year. It'll still be there. But a lot of the companies are going to change it next year. So on all future contracts in 2021 or 2022, we're not 100% sure what it's going to be. But as of right now, the insurance company comes to the table and says, hey, minimum contractual guarantee, 4% growth. Okay. So, and these are companies literally.
Guarantee. Exactly. That is written and signed and executed.
100%. So look, I've got a company that's done it for 200 years. They've never failed on a contract. They've had millions of these type of contracts issued over the years. They're going to give me a 4% guaranteed growth. And then on top of that, they give a dividend. So we only work with private companies. They're not publicly traded. They're called mutual companies. And they split and share their profitability as a company with the type of people that have these policies. So that's called a dividend. Today, the policies are making somewhere in the neighborhood of between 5 and about 6% on the high end. 4% of it's guaranteed. The rest of it would be the dividend. Now, dividends are super low today. In the real estate world, we love this. In the insurance world, it kind of hurts us. Insurance companies only invest in things that they can control. So they're highly tied to interest rates. Right. And as interest rates have been crazy low, their dividends have been lower these last several years. So today between 5 and 6%. But if you think about it, if I could earn, all in on a piece of real estate between 20 and 30% return, and that's very realistic with appreciation, tax deductions, leverage and cash flow. If I can earn 20, 25, 30% return on a piece of real estate, and at the same time earn 5 to 6% tax-free on a vault, and my money's doing both of those things at the same time, it just accelerates my results that much faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely love that aspect of it. So then what about if, as a personal finance status, you should always have, I believe, at least 6 to 12 months of expenses just in cash, liquid, ready to go.
Yep.
And a lot of the questions people have is, where should I put that money? Right?
Yeah.
Should I just put it in the stock market. There really aren't too many, that's too risky. You want to just leave it in
Yep.
the checking account, earning pretty much zero. Can't
Yep.
put it in CDs anymore. High interest accounts don't even exist anymore. So what about in putting some of those funds in this account?
100%. I mean, think about it that way. Like, because look, there's always a trade-off if you go back to traditional finance. If you want your money to be safe and liquid, you put it in a bank, but you sacrifice growth if you put it in a bank. If you want your money to grow a little bit, maybe you choose something like the market. But now when your money's in the market, you sacrifice liquidity and you sacrifice safety, right? So the money might go up, but if I want to have, if it's my reserve and my money's in the market, it's not really a reserve, it's invested somewhere else. Right. So it's not really liquid. And I've sacrificed the safety. So if you keep your reserves in the vault, which is where most of our people keep their reserves, it's the best place, right? Because if I need it, it's there. I can get access to it within 24 hours. It's growing, it's tax-free. Oh, and here's the crazy part, okay? And I know, man, the world we live in is so crazy, but a lot of people value their privacy. And especially as you build your wealth, the target on your back becomes bigger. It just does, right? Because when you have more, people see you as an opportunity for litigation. So the cool thing about these contracts, they are private contracts between you, a private individual, and a private insurance company, which means not only are your reserves growing safe, private, protected, and liquid, it's 100% anonymous, right? No one knows that you've got money in these policies. Literally, you don't have to disclose them on FAFSA. And this is a horrible example, but it's probably the best example for this thing we're talking about. Bernie Madoff, when his whole Ponzi scheme fell apart, the IRS came in and seized everything he had to try to make the people he had schemed whole, right? With the exception of his life insurance policies. He had 3 New York life policies. Those remained intact the entire time.
I don't know about you guys, but I want to get more information. So how does everyone else reach out to you, contact you? I'm sure you got a very busy schedule. So how do they get more information?
Yeah, Mark, and I appreciate that, man. Probably the easiest way to get information on what we do is to go to Facebook, right? And on Facebook, we have a free community and we do a 5-day challenge. And inside of this 5-day challenge, we literally validate everything we've talked about today on this video. We show you why saving and putting money in a 401k is likely never going to work for you. Then we show you the exact opposite, why turnkey real estate in the vault is the best thing you can possibly do. And especially when you marry those two concepts. So go to Facebook, search up Cash Flow Tactics, take a free 5-day challenge. You can listen to our podcast, Rise Up, Live Free. A lot of people need to listen to this a few times before it truly sinks in. If you're interested in getting moving on anything, then the easiest way to do is just go to our website, go to cashflowtactics.com, and all of our programs, all of our options are right there.
Perfect. And for all you guys out there, we're going to put the links in the description here of this YouTube video. So you can definitely get in contact with Ryan. We'll get you the links to the Facebook, to the website. We'll get you his email address. And yeah, that's it. Hope you guys liked it. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll have more credible videos like this to help grow that portfolio of yours. So signing off, appreciate you. And thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Mark. It was a pleasure.